Hi, I'm Grant Bartley. For this video I'd like us to consider an argument for God from purpose. We'll consider the argument that 1. Without God there is no ultimate purpose to life. 2. But there must be ultimate purpose to life. 3. Therefore there is a God. Once again, this is a logically valid argument, meaning that if the premises 1 and 2 are true, then the conclusion 3 cannot be false. So once again, the question is whether both premises, 1 and 2, are true. If they both are, then God must exist. The first idea is that without God there is no ultimate purpose to life. To examine this, let's consider perhaps the most prominent atheist approach to ultimate meaning now. This is an attempt to derive purpose from the process of evolution. But this attempt instead shows how shallow the idea of meaning is from an atheistic perspective. Since the basic principle by which nature operates is the survival of the fittest, the basic goal for life must be survival. Granted, no individual organism survives forever, but that's not the point. Rather, from a neo-Darwinian perspective, the purpose of life is the continuation of the gene line, or more generally, of the species. Unfortunately, this goal of survival cannot give purpose. First, survival is not a purpose in itself. The repetition of any process, such as the process of survival, is not any sort of achievement in the sense of obtaining an ultimate goal. The mere continuation of biological existence is the opposite of purpose in that sense. Even if we were to allow sheer survival to be thought of as a purpose, if the purpose of life is to promote the survival of the gene line or the species, then the fact that all gene lines or species will eventually die rather indicates how futile that is. But how can I say that all species will die out, including ours? The fossil record is not encouraging here. It shows that the vast majority of all the species that have ever lived have already become extinct, and also that many species finally died out after thriving for millions or maybe hundreds of millions of years. What makes us think our fate will be any different? All the paleological evidence indicates that the human species will also come to an end, in what amounts to only a blink of an eye of the cosmos. So if the goal is survival of the species or the gene line, it's futile, and so can provide no purpose at all. Let's consider for a moment the unlikely idea that humanity manages to find and colonize suitable worlds beyond the solar system. In this way we manage to survive the eventual expansion and explosion of the Sun in a few billion years. We're not home free as a species yet, by a long way. Instead, as physicists currently believe, all life in the universe must end when the universe suffers its heat death, and there are no more stars that can support life, and the universe becomes a subatomic sludge of static. Or it will end in a big crunch, where everything collapses back into a primordial egg, a superheated singularity where even the laws of physics as we understand them don't survive. The only way around that vortex of ultimate destruction is to suppose that the universe doesn't collapse back to a point before resetting the cosmic clock and restarting, and that somehow humanity manages to survive the process. To this I say, good luck. We're going to need it. But in stark realism, The atheistic perspective tells us that we're looking at thousands, millions, billions, or even trillions of years of further struggle and suffering in hope for some respite, for nothing but extinction in the end. This is what it means to say that without a God, human existence is futile or purposeless. Now, the 20th century existentialists recognise that there is no objective meaning to life without God, and the world-shattering implications of this. Albert Camus even went so far as to say that the world is absurd, due to the degree of disconnect between the justice and fulfilment we would want out of life, compared to the injustice and disappointment it actually offers us. Face to face with nihilistic despair, the existentialists nevertheless claim that it is possible for individuals to create meaning for themselves, and to live by the set of values that they have created. However, while things may be immediately meaningful to someone in our doomed world, there can still be no ultimate objective purpose without God, no idea of lasting achievement, no ultimate changing of the world, which still goes on in its general dog-eat-dog, exploit or be exploited, ultimately unjust, absurd way, despite all your efforts at significance or effectiveness. And when you die, all the meaning you've created for yourself will die with you. What alternative purpose does theism offer? Well, from a specifically Christian perspective, let me say for now that the purpose for the creation of the universe, and so the purpose which gives human life its meaning, is the greater revelation of the glory of the love of God in Christ, in which human beings are called to play a major part. I'll consider the purpose of life from a Christian perspective in more detail in my next video, though. Let's now consider the second premise of the purpose argument, that life must have meaning. There are many ways that something can be explained. One way is to trace its causes back through time, so that, for example, you might explain your existence by talking about your ancestors, then about the evolution of the human species, then the formation of the Earth and the solar system, which was preceded by the formation of the Milky Way, and so on all the way back to the Big Bang. Aristotle called this type of explanation an efficient explanation or cause. Another type of explanation was called by Aristotle a material cause. As you might guess, this is an explanation of something in terms of what it's made of. You might explain your body first in terms of its basic design of limbs, torso, head, and appendages. Going deeper, you might think of the various organs and vessels from which you are constituted. Deeper still, these are made from trillions of cells. These cells are composed of molecules, the molecules of atoms, and the atoms of subatomic wave particles. Another type of cause Aristotle called the teleological cause. We can take teleological to mean an explanation in terms of purpose. There certainly are purposive explanations. For example, if asked, why did you go to Switzerland? Someone might reply, to see the sights and to buy a watch. So what if we then ask, what is the purpose of human existence? I think it was Gottfried Leibniz who first promoted the principle of sufficient reason. It says that for anything to exist, there must be sufficient reason for it to exist. Anything that exists must have enough of the cause to explain its existence. The principle of sufficient reason would say that we must rationally believe that there must be a full explanation for what exists. For example, it says that anything that exists must have a prior cause back through time, through to the point of origin of the chain of causes, and then that the originator of the cause must itself contain its own reason for existence. See my video on the cosmological argument for more about this. We use this principle in our general faith in science. So unless we have a complete account of the physical universe, say in terms of what it's ultimately made of, we feel compelled to continue searching until our understanding of the constitution of everything is complete. The principle of sufficient reason would say that it is irrational to believe that something exists without adequate reasons for it to exist. But I want to go further than this. I want to tweak this idea into the principle that unless there can be sufficient explanation of something in terms of all ways of answering the question, why is it, then explanation is insufficient and reason is incomplete, which is not rationally acceptable, and so cannot be true. So unless we have an explanation for human existence, not just in terms of how we came to be, or how we're materially constructed, but also in terms of the purpose for which we exist, then we haven't given a full account of human existence, which is not rationally acceptable. In brief, if we don't admit that there is a purpose, then we're being basically irrational. But without God, there is no ultimate purpose to life. Therefore, there is a God. Let me tackle a prominent possibility here you might think I'm saying, but which I'm not. I'm not saying that people's desire to have meaning itself gives people reason to believe in God, any more than the fact that you might strongly desire to have a helicopter at the bottom of your garden means that there's a helicopter there. Rather, this argument for the existence of God relies on the nature of reason. My argument here is that reason must be complete, otherwise it's irrational, which reason itself cannot allow. But without explanation in terms of a real purpose for human life, reason is incomplete. This reason itself cannot allow. Therefore, reason itself says that there must be an objective purpose to reality. This purpose, as I've argued, must be supplied by God. Therefore, there is a God. Thank you.